everybody? Welcome in to another episode of the NFL Seekers podcast. Today, we're going to each be talking about the biggest steals of the 2024 NFL draft. We'll each be giving the biggest steal per round for all 7 rounds. So there's going to be 14 total steals in this episode. Super excited for it. We've had a few days to really soak in the draft, soak in, what values ultimately were the biggest steals of this draft. So super excited to talk about this one. How are you, Josh?
Still in awe, man. I can't believe draft season is come and gone. It's like, I don't know. It's just, I feel sad about it, but it's also so nice because it's like now we get to, fully recap and see everything that's happened and, really see all the fits and everything go into these teams. So it's exciting. It's exciting to cover after the draft. But man, I missed the draft process already, and I'm already ready for the 2025 draft.
Yeah, man. Absolutely. I'm ready to do like a 2025 mock draft already. Maybe some summer scouting. We'll definitely get some of that out. I think we will actually get a way too early mock draft out just because, we do have a lot of prior knowledge to a lot of the 2025 prospects as well. So really excited just about, all draft season. We got some fantasy content coming out real soon, some rookie draft content, some dynasty content. It's going to be really fun with the NFL Seekers. But yeah, getting into the steals, we have a lot of guys to talk about. I did kind of want to shout out like defense. This is just kind of a weird draft in general because, the first defensive player of the whole draft went at 15. He was my number one defensive player. So like obviously Latu gets a shout out for, these round one steals. But do you want to just get right into your round one steal with this whole theme of defensive players just being absolute bargains this year?
It was the year of the offense. But yeah, my first steal of the draft at pick number 24, the Detroit Lions trading up to get him, Mr. Terrion Arnold, the cornerback from Alabama. And I'm just gonna tell you, man, talk about a guy with just one of the highest floors in this entire draft class. I kind of had a pro comparison of like AJ Terrell at his very worst, but just a very, very good prospect that had no business being there at 24. I really originally had a top 10 grade on this guy. So, I mean, I thought he could have gotten, honestly, maybe even as high as number five in this draft class, but the offensive players just took over. So it really caused a lot of these absolute steals of defensive players to fall down the board. But I mean, Terrion Arnold was a first team all SEC, tied for sixth in the FBS with 5 interceptions, tied for fifth with 17 passes defended and 12 PBUs. Started all 14 games at Alabama and just smooth and sound in coverage, man. So, I mean, he fits Detroit's secondary perfectly. He's going to plug and play and just one of the better players and one of the better steals of this entire draft class.
Yeah, just what a draft by the Lions in general. They got value all the way down the board. We're going to talk about another pick of theirs later. But yeah, I know that I know Terrion was the number three defensive player for you in the class. He was also my number three. He was my number 11 player in the class. So yeah, getting that at 24, I would have used him if you didn't. He's just tremendous value. The corners shouldn't have fallen like this. He was my number one corner. I know a lot of people are high on Terrion, but this is the perfect fit with the Lions as well. It's really beautiful. Do you want to go into my round one still or anything else you want to say?
And nothing else I want to say, but just beautiful stuff from the Lions, man. This entire draft for them was awesome. But talk, and then I'll let you take the floor, man, with the Steelers pick.
Yeah, just surgical of the way the Lions really just made their secondary kind of like a strength after the draft. So that's really fun by the Lions. But moving on to my round one steal, it is going to be Troy Fautanu. Goes to pick 20 to the Steelers. This is an A plus pick for me. I like for all of these, I'm going to try to say why they fell. This one, it's round one. I don't really know why Troy Fautanu fell. He has a little bit shorter arms, but at the combine they checked out and he looked very natural. He was my number two tackle in this class, my number 12 player. I just incredibly high on him. And the Steelers get that at 20. It's just, a Steelers thing to do. They had an A plus draft last year, getting one of my favorite players in the draft, Broderick Jones, and then do the same exact thing this year. Like full disclosure, we'll talk about the Steelers some more this episode as well. We both had them as, the best draft in the whole NFL, A plus drafts. And yeah, the Troy Fautanu really just kicked it off perfectly easy. Like ESPN projects him at guard, but I think in this Steelers situation, he is going to play left tackle. You can keep Broderick on the right, and I think it's perfect, man. He was voted as the best offensive lineman in the Pac-12 by his peers, and there were some really good Pac-12 offensive lineman. So I just love the guy. He's definitely the best mover of all these tackles in this class. Just so athletic, so natural, just so fluid. I love what I see from Fautanu. Really high on him, and the Steelers got to steal, man. What a draft.
Yeah, back-to-back years, A+ grade for the Steelers. And dude, they have no problem taking the best player available on the board, and it just happened to be a need. And Troy Fautanu, just incredible prospect. I mean, I really thought he was going to go to the Jets at number 10. That's really where I thought he should have gone, but he falls all the way. He falls 10 picks later. The Steelers absolutely steal him. And a guy who's just position flexibility is endless. He can play all five spots on the line. He fills about five different needs for the Steelers. And like you said, man, he's just the way he moves kind of reminds me of Rashawn Slater. I thought that was kind of a good comp for him. And so if you're getting Rashawn Slater at pick number 20, that's a pretty damn good pick.
They have like the exact same measurables. Slater's knock was his arm length as well. They have the exact same arms. I literally think that's just like a one for one perfect player comp. So I agree. You're getting Slater at 20. The Steelers continue their dominance of just knocking picks out of the park, obvious picks that just fall to them. It's beautiful stuff. Not the last time we'll talk about the Steelers. So with that, do you want to move on to your round two still?
Yes, my round two steal is going to be Jackson Powers Johnson, who falls to the 13th pick in the second round. And a guy he was kind of mocked all over the place, you know. But the consensus on Jackson Powers Johnson was that he was a first round lock no matter what. This year, I mean, he won the Remington Trophy for the nation's top center. He was an All American, first team All Pac 12, and just a hard nosed football player who me and you know very well. Just an absolute unit. He could play both sides of the football, but he had no business being there at the 13th pick in the second round. He's too talented of a prospect. He's a mauler, he's a finisher. And the Raiders at a position of need, that they get the best player left on the board at pick 13, where he really just had no business being there.
It's pretty annoying, honestly, as fans of, AFC West teams. It really is annoying that the Raiders just got complete value with their first two-round picks, really just letting Bowers fall to them and then Powers Johnson fall into them somehow. I think Jordan Morgan was drafted to be an interior in round one as the first interior, which is very questionable to me by the Packers. And then Graham Barton goes in front of Jackson Bowers Johnson, which was kind of expected. But for him to go, as the 44th overall pick, it is pretty surreal. That positional value must just be not valued, because I really have no concerns with Jackson Powers Johnson. I think he's one of the higher floor players in the class. I think he has incredible upside. I think he literally can be Jason Kelsey. I don't see why he can't. He just looks the same. He moves the same. He has the same like love for the game. You can just visibly see it when you watch him. He's just so fun to watch, and he's blocking for his running backs downfield, pointing him where to go. He's just so fun, such high IQ. He's got a strong base. I love JPJ so much. I hate that the Raiders stole him, but I'll move on to my round two. Still, it is AD Mitchell to the Colts. This was another A+ pick for me. He was my number 6 receiver in the class, the Georgia transfer. He goes as a 52nd overall pick, and I mean, me and Ballard were just on the same exact wavelength for those first two picks. He got Latu and AD Mitchell. I don't know how AD Mitchell falls though to round two. The pick 20 in round two. I genuinely can't understand it. I know there's some off the field, some, effort concerns or whatever, but at that point, you're getting a guy that literally he moves, he has different wiggle than a few of the receivers that went in front of him. He literally has CD Lamb upside. You can see it when you watch him. He's like I said, he's got nice wiggle. He can really, he has some nice slants, but he also has some of the best like ball tracking in the air, deep ball tracking, go up and pluck the ball and get it. In this whole class, he's got like that Tony toe tap trait where he's really good at like his controlling his body. He has really great awareness on the field. So the Colts just got to steal, man. If he and like I'm not concerned about off the fields even at all, because you've got such a perfect situation here. You got Anthony Richardson with him. He's going to be an awesome mentor. You in the room, you've got Josh Downs and Michael Pittman complimenting you. Alec Pierce is the perfect four, and then Jonathan Taylor. It's so fun, man. He fits the room perfectly. Electric pick. My number 6 receiver should not have gone where he did, man. He's just so fluid. He's a natural separator. He's insane at the catch point. Touchdown machine. He would make a really, in my notes, I said before the draft, he would make a really great number two in a high-powered scoring offense. And I think that's exactly what he's going to be with Anthony Richardson. It's beautiful.
Yeah, and I mean, honestly, even with this guy, I kind of had notes of he has the ceiling of being a top 15 football player or top 15 wide receiver in the entire NFL. Period. He is just that talented. His RAS, his relative athletic score, pops off the charts. He's one of the most athletic receivers in this entire draft class. And yeah, I mean the reason he drops and Chris Ballard kind of put a slam to it when he did his post draft interview. He said, "Yeah," he goes, "People do that to try and ruin these young kids draft stocks and try and have them fall." And he just happened to Chris Ballard happened to be the beneficiary and stop the fall. But I mean, yeah, Adonai Mitchell, me and you really thought he should have been probably between that, in the first round 20 to 28 range. He had no business even making it to the second round, especially. Yeah, I mean the upside for him over a lot of the guys that went before him. I mean, there's so much more upside, the speed, the hands. And yeah, man, the Colts got a great one.
Yeah, I mean Jalen Polk was the receiver in front of him, and I love Jalen Polk, but I mean even the Patriots admitted that they kind of got finessed out of Lad McConkey and Keon Coleman, and they kind of were forced into Polk. So yeah, it is crazy that like all those receivers went over 80 Mitchell, and we like all those receivers, but I think we both agree that 80 Mitchell should have gone above them just based that he can be a wide receiver one alpha. He can be better than Michael Pittman in year two of his career. Really, he's that type of receiver. He's special.
I think he will. I think he will overtake Michael Pittman. I think year one he'll probably be the two, and then next year I think he really has the potential to be the dominant X receiver. So yeah, absolute value, crazy steal, one that we were all scratching our heads with going into day two and watching the drop. And what did he fall to? The Colts had the
It,
18th
it
pick
was
in the second.
pick 20 in the second round, so 52 overall. Just absurd.
Ridiculous, man, ridiculous. Never should have happened.
It really is. And like you said, he's got incredible upside. I think his floor is like George Pickens. He'll just be like a nice compliment. Number two, maybe some effort issues, but his floor is George Pickens. So I will definitely take that with that complete steal with the 20th pick in round two. But with that, let's move on to your round three still.
Yeah, my round three steal is a guy who just really impressed me throughout the whole process. Had an incredible season at Michigan. Was their leading receiver there this year. One of the better route runners in this draft class. Has some of the more lethal deep speed. But yeah, Mr. Roman Wilson from Michigan, man. Falling to, and correct me if I'm wrong, I believe he fell to the 20th pick in the third round, if I'm not mistaken. I think it was that pick where he was taken. And I mean, a guy that just made everyone look silly at the Senior Bowl. I just the upside for this guy is just crazy, man. It's just so crazy. The route running, I mean, he does everything at an elite level. And I had an early second round grade on Roman Wilson. I honestly thought the Chargers could take him with their first pick in the second round. He ends up falling all the way to the third round. No business being there. One of the better route runners, has some of the cleaner hands, and then just has a very, very underrated speed. I believe he ran a 4.4 at the combine, so he can beat you over the top. He can beat you with his footwork. And yeah, just polarizing player again. And obviously this is why it's called steals, but just steal of the third round.
Absolutely. I mean, I was really high on him as well. I almost got like Chris Olave vibes, just the way he completely separates like with his speed downfield on crossers. That's going to be perfect in Arthur Smith offense as well. I think it's underrated that the Steelers receivers going into the draft were George Pickens, Van Jefferson, Denzel Mims, Quez Watkins, Calvin Austin, Dez Fitzpatrick. Those are all outside receiver deep threats. They didn't have one intermediate slot receiver, that can kind of threaten things in the intermediate game. So I think Roman Wilson was just the perfect receiver that they were probably eyeing from round two on. And he goes to them and pick 20 in the third round. That's just absurd. I think he's going to be one of the more reliable receivers for Russell Wilson day one. He can be like a Tyler Lockett. I really think he can because he's got nice deep ball tracking, but he's just he's just so speedy, man. he's a real threat. If Russ can get it out to him, he's going to be awesome, and he is really just a perfect complement to that room. So yeah, I love the pick, love the value.
No team better at drafting, day two, day three steals at wide receiver than the Pittsburgh Steelers too. So yeah, I think he just goes to the right team, the right coaching, and I have no doubt Roman Wilson's going to be a popular name come Sundays.
Absolutely going to be another fan favorite for the Steelers. Let's move on to my round three steal. It's going to be for the Denver Broncos at pick 76. It's Jonah Ellis. Obviously, another A+ pick for me. All of these are. It was my number 5 edge rusher in the class, though, and there were getting to be some kind of interesting edge rushers going off the board before him, and I was starting to kind of question like my process, of, like why I had him as my edge 5, and the NFL, I think he went as the edge 9 or 10, and it's just crazy to me. I thought he was, he's got a lot of upside. He was only 21 years old last year. He had 13 sacks in 12 games while playing some games hurt. He's the son of Luther Ellis, who also played for the Broncos. He has 3 brothers in the NFL, so he's got the bloodlines, he's got the upside, and obviously he was incredibly productive at 21 in the Pac-12. So I mean, I think he would have killed the combine if he was playing. I mean, if he participated, if he was healthy, because I just think he's a freak athlete. I think he's being slept on as just an overall athlete, and that production I can't really get away from. And he's so smart. He's got a really high IQ. He's got a lot of pass rush moves. He's got good counters. He's really high IQ. When you watch him against USC, you could see that Caleb Williams was even like keying in on Jonah Ellis, and really just like looking at what he was doing, because he wasn't really worried about the rest of the defensive line. So he is special. He's got hammers for hands. Really smart. Really strong. I love Jonah, man. One of my guys.
100%. Another one that pisses me off because I'm a Chargers fan, and we're gonna have to try and block this guy. Luckily, we drafted Joe Alt. But yeah, I mean Jonah Ellis, man, he's the son of an NFL player, and you can see that in his technique. You can see it in his hands. And when I watched Jonah Ellis, he had one of the highest motors, in the entire draft class. It was nonstop. I mean, it was nonstop motor the entire game. The effort level was never in question. And like you said, one of the smartest players in the entire draft class. They did an interview on Jonah Ellis, and they were asking him every single question, and he just answered it as if he was almost like Cooper Kupp did in an interview. You see him, all right, well, if they hit me with this move, I'm going to do a high-low chop. If they do that, then I'm going to counter it with this. And a lot of edge rushers are scared to give away their pass rushing moves, but he's got every single one of them. And so he's like, well, if they do that, then I'm just going to counter them with this, and I'm going to do that. And so I was a big Jonah Ellis fan, not excited to have to play against him as a Chargers fan. But again, yeah, another guy who had no business being here in the third round.
Absolutely love it. I love the value. There, like I said, were some edge rushers going in front of him where I just had to make this one of my steals of the drafts. I really had to. I full disclosure, I'm a Broncos fan, but I just absolutely love the pick, and just going into like the process of the pick. I think edge is an underrated need after that Bo Nix pick for the Broncos. So I think he's going to be awesome, opposite of Baron Browning. But with that, do you want to get into your round 4 steal?
Yes, round 4 steal for me is going to be TJ Tampa, who I had a first round grade on through the entire process. He was one of my favorite prospects, and he just embodies what an NFL corner is and what an NFL corner thrives at being. I mean, he's 6'1", 190 pounds, big, physical, tall corner, get in your face. He had good production at Iowa State. And it was just something I just scratched my head on, man. And like you said, you love the process of watching certain things. I love the process of him going to the Baltimore Ravens, where he gets to go and him and Nate Wiggins both. He doesn't have to start right away. I mean, this guy's upside is just tremendous. But he goes to a smash mouth defense, physical press, get in your face, punch you in the mouth. And I feel like that's the exact kind of corner he's going to, thrive at being in the NFL. And he goes to the right coaching staff. And man, I was pounding the table for my team to draft TJ Tampa in round 2, in round 3, and he just kept falling. I was just scratching my head on why, and I still don't understand why. I don't feel like he really had any business being a 4th round pick, but here we are, and the Ravens benefited from it.
Yeah, he goes as the 30th pick in round four, pick 130. Absolutely crazy. He was a top 10 corner for me as well. I will say I do know why he fell. I think there is a clear reason why he fell, and that's just because he's very scheme specific. I think that it's kind of ironic, like the name is kind of comical, and the number the Tampa two, he's just a very a zone specific corner has to play that cover two, Tampa two, like his name and number represents. And I mean, it's the perfect situation going to Baltimore. So I mean, he fell for a reason, but he fell to a perfect situation where he's going to be in that zone heavy defense. He doesn't have to start day one. You've got Marlon Humphrey and Nate Wiggins there. So with Kyle Hamilton pretty much being the slot. So I mean, he really couldn't be in a better situation. We both have him as a top 10 corner because I mean, I compare him to Martin Emerson just because he's just a dog. He's just a football player. He's gonna, trash talk you. He's gonna tackle you. He's got some, another reason it fell is the athletic traits aren't great.
Yeah, he didn't test incredible. Yeah, he did not test probably as a first round corner should, but yeah, I think he'll put the league on notice with the Ravens. I mean, he really is in the perfect situation.
Yep, exactly. The RAS score wasn't crazy, but he did just fall to the right spot, the perfect home, and yeah, that Tampa name fits him perfectly. He's gonna really excel in that zone heavy defense. I'm really excited for it.
Yes, sir. And Dan, let's hear about your second Bronco player, which is I agree with this one. He was my honorable mention here for the fourth round. I would have done him if not TJ Tampa, but take away the floor.
Yeah, I hate to do two Broncos in a row. I really do. But this one was just like, everyone went to bed after day two of the draft, and everyone was just kind of, wanting their team to go and draft either Jatavion Sanders or Troy Franklin. And I will shout out Jatavion Sanders, who went as the first pick in the fourth round. I think everyone was thinking about him overnight on after day two, and the same as Troy Franklin. I know for a fact Sean Payton really wanted to pair him with Bo Nix. He goes and trades up and gets him with the second overall pick of the fourth round. I have to give it an A+ grade. I know you're trading up for him, and there's reasons he fell. I'll get to that, but he was my number 8 receiver ultimately, and I was actually higher on him before, and I started lowering him down a little bit closer to the draft, but I did stand on it most of the entire process really since like December. I did like Troy Franklin, and I always said that he was my number one most explosive deep threat receiver in the class. I really think he's just special as a deep threat. He's a playmaker as a deep threat, and it's a real weapon. That's why I really wanted the Bills to get him with Josh Allen, but he's got that continuation with Bo Nix. They've got the chemistry that it's going to really help Bo's comfortability. So I mean that's another like A+ aspect in this trade. It's going to really help the situation for your 12th overall quarterback rookie investment. So yeah, I absolutely love the player. I am higher on him. He's my, number 8 receiver. He went as like I think it was the 15th receiver, which is just so crazy. He fell because apparently there were questions about his love for the game. I couldn't be less worried about that now that he's paired up with Bo Nix, in this Broncos offense. I'm not too worried about his off the field concerns. And then he did fall for, he's skinny for his height. He's a little bit skinny, and he did have some drop issues. The drops are definitely something that I would just say is a product of the degree of difficulty of the catches that he's getting because he's like I said, a premier primary deep receiver, a deep threat. He's going to be, trying to catch the over the shoulder balls 50 yards downfield. He's not going to come out down with everyone, but I thought he was pretty electric and like, efficient at coming down with them. So I really love Troy Franklin, love the situation he's going into. It couldn't be more fun. He's so explosive. How do you feel about it?
I mean, PFF had a top 30 grade on this guy. Like you said, he's one of the most explosive, get down the field, electric wide receivers. And yeah, again, no business being here in the fourth round. And the Broncos did the right thing. I mean, they when day three came around, they made the phone call and they got up there quick to get Troy Franklin. And it's the right thing to do with your rookie quarterback and Bo Nix, who's already got chemistry, who's already got rapport with this guy. But yeah, I think Troy Franklin immediately comes into the NFL, immediately makes the contribution. And when you're getting into day three, that's all you can ask for, man. I think he's going to be one of the most productive day three players. And yeah, I mean, just the fit and coming back with Bo Nix is just awesome and electric. But yeah, again, a lot of people had him as a top 30 player. And yeah, he falls to round four, which is just just annoying again. Another annoying one for me.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, the first three picks for Denver really are exactly what I would have done. Going Bo Nix, Jonah Ellis, and Troy Franklin, three players that were really high on my board, and yeah, like respect to Sean Payton for giving Bo Nix that comfortability. It's going to be a really nice security blanket having that Troy Franklin, and I even have in my notes before the draft that I thought he had more nuance in his routes than he's given credit for. I really do think he has some outside, maybe wide receiver one potential, and especially in this situation with this college quarterback, you never know. I love the shot though, especially with this value. Just absurd, absurd value at pick 102. I do want to shout out Junior Colson for the Chargers as well. The fourth round is pretty stacked, man. There's some really good names. So I did want to shout out, Colson's going to be a big impact day one as well.
Third round.
Oh, did
I
Colson go third?
wanted I was really debating doing Junior Colson, but I would have had three Chargers, and I just couldn't do that. But yeah, Junior Colson was the 69th overall pick, which honestly he should have been a day two, or sorry, round two type of player.
Yeah, that's awkward. I may or may not have meant to put that note under my Jonah Ellis note. So he was an honorable mention for my round three after Jonah Ellis. But yeah, electric draft. We'll talk about the Chargers here in a second. But do you want to move on to your round five still?
Yes, and that is by Chargers cornerback, Mr. Cam Hart from Notre Dame. 6'3", 200-pound Cam Hart, one of the best run defending corners in this draft. One of the guys that just had one of the better prospects. Went down to Mobile, absolutely shut everyone down there. He really put me and you on notice down there at the Senior Bowl and really became one of our favorite cornerbacks. I had a top 50 grade on this dude by the end of the process, and again, he fell because there was a shoulder injury concern with him, which ultimately caused him to fall to the fifth round. But I mean, the value you're getting if this guy can stay healthy is just incredible. I mean, from being a run stopping corner to shutting down your speedier, faster receivers. I mean, his tape is just perfect. It's flawless. He forced three forced fumbles in 2023. And he's really athletic for being 6'3", 200 pounds. I mean, he ran a 4.5, he had a 40-inch vertical, a 10-10 broad jump. Yeah, no, just I'm very happy. I mean, this was a good solution to the Broncos drafting Troy Franklin. I'm very happy we attacked the cornerback room, and I couldn't be more happy with Cam Hart. He's definitely a guy I was pounding the table for, when the Chargers were on the clock in round 3 and 4, and for him to find his way to round 5 is just crazy to me.
Yeah, absolute still. He was, a top 15 corner for me. I love the size. He's, 6'3", 202. He's gonna really hang on the outside. You could be confident that he could start day one on the outside because he's a really smart corner. Coming from Notre Dame, he put on some really good reps. I don't know if you remember the Senior Bowl, but he was kind of infamous for just ruining Tez Walker's whole week, and he ruined Tez Walker's draft stock because he was just following Tez Walker around, and Tez Walker just couldn't catch the ball. And there's that one viral clip of Cam Hart with just like one of the better mirror, like just like textbook. I'll put it on the screen right now. I'll play it for anyone watching on YouTube. I'll play the clip. I'm watching it right now as I'm talking, but it's just a textbook rep that he had on Tez Walker. It went viral. I'll put it on here, but he really is sticky for how big he is. That's kind of what impressed me is he doesn't really have any gap squeeze for he doesn't allow that much, squeeze between the receiver and him. So for his size, I think it's really impressive. I think he's an impressive athlete for his size, and he had no business being here in round five. Tarheeb still went a few picks before him, and how do you not take Cam Hart there? And they made up for it. So yeah, just beautiful stuff from the Chargers, man.
Yeah, and then he also reunites. And I had this in my notes somewhere. With his coach, his secondary coach from Notre Dame with the Chargers. Where do you remember his name?
I don't remember his name, but that is huge. I mean, you kind of knew he was going to be a Charger like target too. I think we predicted this in our mock draft series just because you knew that Harbaugh was going to be familiar with the Notre Dame, and he just felt like a Charger.
100%, yeah. And I could be more ecstatic. We got one more Charger on this list. I'm excited to talk here in a couple of rounds, but take us away with Spencer Rattler, Dan. There's a big gap between the Bo Nix and Spencer Rattler, between the quarterback gap there.
Yeah, so we'll go over to pick 150, the 15th pick in this fifth round. Bo Nix is the quarterback that goes, the most recent ahead of Rattler, and he's the 12th pick in the first round. So a big fast forwarding here to the next quarterback off the board. And I'm just going to say it. I was really high on Spencer Rattler. If you watched any of our videos, this whole, draft process, I had him lumped into the same tier as Jaden Daniels, who went number 2 overall, with JJ McCarthy, Bo Nix, and Michael Penix. I really do think that he can run an offense day one. I think he has upside. He has tools, obviously, and I really just like his improvement as a human on a leader level. He's a really, I feel like he's gonna gravitate his teammates towards them. He's a really calm, cool, collected guy. He just has an aura around him that I really like. And so yeah, he was my number 7 quarterback. You get him here in round 5 just because no one really needs a quarterback. I'm gonna say it. I think he's better than Derek Carr day one. I would do whatever I can to move off from Derek Carr and just let this guy play and just see what happens. If he isn't good, then we'll draft a quarterback, with our first round pick next year. But yeah, I really do like what I see from Spencer. He's impressive to me as a processor. I think he's smart. He's kind of seen a lot in the SEC and Big 12 now, and he had a really good season at South Carolina with no offensive line, and obviously the arm talent is pretty special. He was supposed to be a first overall pick just a few years ago before getting benched for Caleb Williams, who went first. So yeah, I think there's some untapped potential, and obviously this value is just kind of insane.
100%. And I mean, a big reason, which I love that Ian Rappaport actually goes on television and reports, was a big reason why Spencer Rattler fell is because a lot of GMs and scouts watched the quarterback one series on Spencer Rattler, and if you watch that, there's just a very bad look. Maybe, I mean, maybe it was how they went about the reality show to put on him, but he had a very bad look. And I'll be honest with me, it kind of tainted my view of Spencer Rattler, and really questioning whether he could really take a locker room or really be a team guy at all, or just be a problem. And so I'll be honest, I was kind of a victim of that. But if you really go turn on the tape with Spencer Rattler and you see the untapped potential, and I think he's a quick processor. I think he's ready to take this next step. And like you said, I honestly 100% agree with you. I think if I'm the Saints, I take my 5th round pick and Spencer Rattler. I would do whatever I could to do what the Broncos did with Russell Wilson. I don't care if we eat $30 million of dead cap. I'm taking Spencer Rattler. I'm starting him this season. If he gets hurt, I'll play the backup. And if that doesn't work out, we take the best quarterback in next year's draft class because we'll have a top 5 pick. So yeah, I absolutely love the value here. I think, yeah, for a 5th round guy, he's got at one point being talked about, as a first round pick. There's a lot of potential and a lot of untapped potential that, the right team can really turn Spencer Rattler into something special.
Exactly. That's what I really am attracted to, the untapped potential. I think he really has changed as a person. Just listening to the interviews, he does seem like someone that, teammates will really want to rally around and kind of relate to. And yeah, he seems like a very likable guy now. So I love it. Let's move on to your round 6 still.
Khristian Mahogany, the offensive guard from Boston College, man. This is a bruiser. This is a mauler. And again, a guy who I had a 3rd, 4th round grade on. He falls to the 6th round. I really love the situation he goes to with Dan Campbell. Punch you in the mouth, bite your kneecaps kind of mentality here. But yeah, I mean, 6'3", 314, 33.5-inch arms, 10.5-inch hands. He's just a prototypical mean guard. He's actually relatively athletic too. He ran a 5'1", 32-inch vert for a big lineman, which is not bad. Was the first team all SEC and started 12 games at right guard in 2023. And I don't know. I don't understand. I don't understand how he's still on the board. I think this is a guy that you definitely throw a dart throw on at least early day 3. I don't think there's any reason or any business he should have fallen to round 6. But one of my favorite guard prospects, and he really ends up in the right situation. I think he'll end up starting for the Lions sooner than later.
Yeah, it was just such an obvious pick. Like here in round 6, there was a lot of just random interior offensive linemen going off the board, and you just have this absolute Greek goddess looking guy that's a good athlete. He had some good tape. It really is just apparently some teams red flagged him for his injuries. Apparently there's some,
Yeah.
obviously he goes in round 6. Obviously there's something that we don't know with the injury. So that's what it
Yeah,
is. But
he did tear his ACL in 2022 and missed the entire season.
yeah, so there's something that teams might not like, but like you get him in here with Detroit, you've you've got literally a perfect offensive line right now. Ragnow, you bring in Zeitler, and you have Graham Glasgow on the interior, so he has all the time in the world to develop and get healthy, and then just go in there when he's comfortable. And the Lions actually had a lot of injuries on the interior last year, so I thought just drafting an interior offensive lineman was big as well. I thought they could do it in the first round, so absolutely love the pick. It's very low risk, high reward. I absolutely love it. I love the player as well. He was one of my top 10 interior offensive linemen. But with that, I'll move on to my round six. Still, we'll stick with the big uglies, the beef, and with pick 199 in round six, the Saints get Khristian Boyd, another A+ pick for me. He was my number 10 defensive tackle, and I mean, I absolutely loved him. I was really high on him, but he went deep into the draft, man. He went as the 199th overall pick. I had him as the number 10 defensive tackle, right behind Mason Smith, who went round two. So I mean, I was just really high on him. It's not often that you see a nose that gets after the quarterback like him. He has real wiggle. He has nice swim and pass rush moves. He shined at the Shrine Bowl. I really just don't often see nose tackles move like him, and there really weren't any like good nose tackles in this draft at all. So the fact that he fell was just absolutely crazy to me. He had an 89.7 PFF grade last year, which was the seventh best among D tackles. And I mean, just what a damn steal this was, man. The Saints are two Saints in a row for me, two Saints steals in a row for me. I was really on the same wavelength as Mickey Loomis there. But yeah, I think he's going to get a lot of snaps in this room too. I think it's like a perfect situation for him to go into and be that Saints defensive lineman that they always, have around for 5 years. It's just awesome, and they get for a complete value. So I love it.
Yeah, just a head scratcher, like you said. Just the people that went in front of him just made absolutely no sense, man. I even like this guy more than McKinley Jackson, Jordan Jefferson, a lot of players that went quite a bit higher than him. And for him to fall on the production and what he did through this process, it just doesn't make any sense. But he does go to the perfect situation with the Saints. I mean, I think he'll be a fantastic rotational player immediately with Brian Bresee and that pretty okay Saints defensive line. But yeah, this one I don't understand. And with the run on defensive tackles too is crazy. And that he fell all the way to the sixth round. I don't know what we're missing here, but yeah, I mean, what a value.
Yeah, like I loved a lot of D tackles. Like I really love Logan Lee, who also could have been a round six steal shout. He wins the second pick in round. I had Khristian Boyd even higher than Logan Lee though, and I was like incredibly high on Logan Lee. I just couldn't believe that he was still here. He was like the biggest fall. I even remember his PFF grades were like 90s the last 2 years. PFF had him really high up on their board. So yeah, I don't know. I think he's just going to be a really good rotational defensive lineman for the Saints. And I think that's very valuable where you get him. I think the NFL missed on him. But with that, let's move on to our last two stills of the night. Who's your round seven still?
Take it away with my last Charger, man. And like you said after the draft when this happened, you said, I don't know what it is, but I really just have a feeling that the NFL missed on Brenden Rice. And I could not agree with you anymore. I mean, he was a second team all Pac 12 conference player, led the team with 12 receiving touchdowns in 12 games. He's the son of Jerry Rice, Pro Football Hall of Famer. So he's got the bloodline. His production at USC was fantastic. He tested actually very, very well. He ran a 4.5. He's got a 36-inch vert, 10-inch broad. The size is all there. I don't understand. I mean, and the production, I'm scratching my head on this one. And this dude's been taught by his Hall of Fame dad ever since he was a baby, like Marvin Harrison Jr. Marvin Harrison Jr. obviously is a little bit of a different prospect and a different type of person. But oh my God, I mean, you're telling me Jerry Rice is your dad and you've been groomed since you were a child. And that's the same thing. We're all, absolutely bound down to Marvin Harrison Jr. But I mean, Brenden Rice was looked at as, maybe a late second round, third, fourth, worst case scenario, and he falls to the seventh round. Try making sense of it because I just can't.
I can't. I'm just gonna say this right now. This is probably gonna make me lose all credibility, and we might just have to end our podcast. But I'm just gonna say it, man. Brenden Rice was my number 13 receiver. My number 14 receiver was Xavier Worthy. So I had Brenden Rice one spot above Xavier Worthy. They went opposite ends of the draft. So that take is either going to completely ruin me before, I even start, or that's going to make me look good. 'Cause that's pretty insane. I don't know what I was seeing compared to the NFL, but like even just watching Caleb Williams, he pops because Caleb Williams will just pull up against Utah, set his feet and just throw it 70 yards downfield. And this guy number two is just running straight past the entire defense. And he's coming down with the ball and running for a touchdown. I mean, multiple times on tape, I see it against really good teams. And watching Brenden Rice's tape, you'll see Caleb Williams running around like he does. He'll throw up a Hail Mary moon ball to Brenden Rice and he'll go up and pluck it because he has like special pluck ability in the air that I didn't really see from many of these prospects. And I guess I'm just a complete casual because a lot of the NFL teams I didn't see the same thing as me. And like, I mean, you see his tape at Colorado, he's catching screens, running from teams. He goes to USC. I thought he was their best receiver. I thought he was better than Todd Washington. I really did. He seemed like the better all around guy. And like he goes in round 7. I understand that he falls. I understand why he falls. Doesn't really have like the highest upside or anything. But I would say that he's like Quentin Johnston. If and you're not letting Quentin Johnston fall to round 7 if he's going back into the draft. I would say like worst case scenario, he's like a Quentin Johnston type player, and you still like you'll take that on the outside is like two hedges to that same player. So I don't know, man. I guess I'm either just completely missing or I'm just the biggest badass receiver scout of all time, and we'll see. But like also like why wouldn't you just bet on the bloodlines at a point? Like what point in the draft does it get to where you just want to bet on the greatest receiver of all time, son? I don't know, man. The whole thing was just confusing to me, really. It's got me shook still.
Yeah, it just production. I mean, the hands are good, the size is good, the speed is good. There's just nothing that like pops off. There's no injury concerns. I mean, maybe he doesn't have the most. I mean, just because he's a little bit, maybe a little bit more clunky. But I mean, his route running is not bad. It just does not make any sense. I feel like he can actually run the whole route tree at a pretty okay level. I don't think he's obviously elite. When you look at a elite type prospect, you do see Marvin Harrison Jr., but I don't feel like, he's, you know, 7th round. I mean, it's crazy. I think he really realistically thought he'd be a second, third round pick. I mean, falling to the 7th is just, quite frankly disrespectful. And, I hope he's got that mentality of that I'm gonna show the NFL why they messed up.
Yeah, like I guess I'll just say it. My wide receiver 13 is Brenden Rice. I kind of had him up there because I think his floor is like a Quentin Johnston where you're
You
gonna
were high
take
on him
him.
the whole process. I remember you telling me
Yeah.
you're like, I absolutely love this. I remember in February you texting me. I have the receipts, and you're like, this guy is special, man. Like, I'm high on him. Like, I feel like he's being overlooked. You said that all the way back then, and that's when he was like a second, third round pick. So, yeah.
And that's the one thing this draft that I guess the NFL just didn't really that I was the farthest apart with the NFL on. So I don't know what is going on there, but I really do just love the player. I get excited about him. And of course he's a Charger. The Broncos get Vele in round 7, just a few picks after to rub it. And like that's just on real like the drop off between Brenden Rice and Vele is like Jerry Rice to some random DoorDash driver. Man, I can't believe it.
Oh, it's fantastic. This one makes me smile, man. It felt good ending, a long draft process and just really, seeing your team hit. So on a player like this in that round. So I love it. Let's hear about your corner from South Dakota.
All right, we'll get on to the last steal that we're going to talk about with pick 227 in round 7. The Browns get Myles Harden, A+ pick for me. He's a Florida boy. He goes to a small school in South Dakota due to some circumstances where he had to go out there, and he was my number 20 corner. I really was just high on him. I had him right above Stiggers, and I'll have another transparency moment with you. I had him right behind Chris Abrams-Drain, who the Broncos drafted in round 5. I had him literally sandwiched in between him and Stiggers. So I like Harden a lot. I think he's going to be like been a special teams demon for you day one, obviously, with this Browns secondary because you've got the best corner room in the league. But I think he's got starting slot potential, and you got him in the round 7. I'm almost confident that he will end up starting for one of those 3 receivers, Ward, or one of those 3 corners, Ward, Emerson, Newsome. One of them's gonna, need to get paid. So I'm sure one of them will leave. And I am confident Myles Harden will be the one that just steps in a year or two, kind of like Zion McCollum with the Bucks, who I really liked coming out, and just I see the starting potential with him. I always did. I had him as a top 200 player in this class, so I really like him. He's going to compete his ass off on special teams and just make an impact as a rookie. And then when he gets on the field, I really do love the player. I love the upside as well. Obviously, the small school guy. So I really like Myles Harden, and he couldn't go to a better spot.
Yeah, I mean, in the 7th round, he was definitely the best corner available on the board. And again, yeah, I actually had a top 150 grade on this guy. And like you said, I think day one he's going to slot in. I don't think he'll need to start. He'll obviously be a special teams demon, like you said. He's got that mentality. But yeah, I mean, a guy who played outside his entire career at South Dakota, but really slots better probably at nickel slot. And yeah, perfect situation, perfect team, and like you said, he'll sit for a year, and I don't know, man. He's I feel like he's got that nose for the football. He flies around the field. He dominated his level of competition, so he did everything. He checked all the boxes, and yeah, that's gonna be a fun one. I say wait 2 years to really see this one pan out, but it's gonna pan out.
Yeah, exactly. I almost like held back on putting him on here just because it will take, a little bit for him to get out there. But I really do think he's gonna just repay the value more than really any of these seventh round picks. And he's a really willing, like honestly, a nasty tackler. He wants to go up and be physical with you and, press you at the line of scrimmage. I really do love Myles. It's just a perfect scheme and fit for him as well. It's so awesome with Anthony Schwartz. So I absolutely love it. I do want to shout out Taj Washington for the Dolphins as well. There were some just receiver steals in that seventh round. I think Taj Washington was just a complete steal compared to like he went behind Bailey. So I yeah, I have no
It's
words
a
for
good,
that.
it's a good, it's a good line to show how much better some players are.
I still was just I still can't even put words together. I was speechless that that name came off the board. But yeah, really, really electric. Any exit hot takes on these steals? Any of these guys going to be the next Hall of Famer?
Maybe Bailey will be the next Puka Nakua. We'll see. That'll be my exit hot take is Devon Bailey turns out to be the next Puka Nakua, and we get a meme Dan on this podcast for his absolute disrespectfulness to Bailey.
And if not, then we'll go with the theme of this podcast that Brenden Rice is the Puka Nakua of the draft. I know you were sending their measurables; they're close. I don't think they're similar players, but I think actually another Charger receiver that you guys got, Lad McConkey, could be the Puka Nakua of this draft. But yeah, I think Brenden Rice is going to be definitely exceeding that stupid seventh round value.
Absolutely love it, man. And if anyone has any ideas for podcasts, you'd like to see us, if you want to see some more fantasy stuff come out, or do you want us to keep hounding on this draft and doing more reviews on it, just let us know down in the comments. We'd love to engage with you guys and love to see what you'd like to see content wise. So, let us know. We'd love to hear.
Yep, definitely let us know. We'll be open to any comments. We'll have some drafts, some fantasy content, and just anything we can think of to kill the time until this season. It's an exciting time of the year, though. This is honestly my favorite time of the year. We do a deep dive series every year, so I'm really excited to get into it. Really fun talking about these steals. But tune in to the NFL Seekers podcast. Like, comment, subscribe if you liked. Peace.
Peace.